Wrong video. I don't know why that was up. Wow, what's up? Wow, how are we doing today, guys? Look at this beautiful Christmas. Look at this beautiful Christmas screen. Why don't we all give Gemzar a big round of applause for this one? I know you guys are dying to know this, but I did pick my car up from the shop, so thankfully we've got that. Now that you are out of the internet blood sports era, do you still hate Mr. Medicare? I don't think I ever hated Mr. Medicare. I think Mr. Medicare is a pretty funny guy. We just disagree politically on things, obviously. I just think you bought a new car. No, it's my Focus from the shop. My Focus RS, okay. Your camera looks washed out. Yeah, you know what? I actually do agree that we should spend an hour today on this. No, I think it's fine. I ever heard of Huey Long? Him and Trump have lots of similarities, maybe worth checking into. Nope. Schoenhead is obsessed with Huey Long. He's a populist fuck. Nice. Okay. Obviously, there have been a lot of rumors and deepfake AI videos that have been spread lately that look somewhat convincing. Obviously, I'm not going to do a whole deep intro or whatever on all this. I will say that I think a friend of mine's account from that I talked to like 3 or 4 years ago ended up getting compromised, and you know, sometimes you just gotta roll with the memes. It is what it is. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? Okay. Sometimes it happens. Would you ever consider doing a video about your streaming gear / setup if you haven't already? I feel like sorry. I feel like there's like a million videos about like streaming gear and shit. I don't like to add content to where I feel like why would I add my voice to a sea of like millions of people? Like, I use 2 computers. I have a capture card. I have a DSLR camera. I'm pretty sure my setup nowadays, everybody's setup is basically the same thing that I use, right?
It's happened again. A November of disappointment that's shaken our resolve. But we as Democrats have been here before, and there's too much on the line to step back. I'm James Skoufis, son of an immigrant, solidly working class, grew up in a union family, born in public housing. Fighting for Orange County, the New York one. My district combines suburbs, exurbs, rural America, and cities. It's a microcosm where most Democrats aren't winning anymore or struggle to eke it out, where hardworking women and men just want a fair shake. A government that invests in our families, rebuilds the American dream, and keeps us safe.
Are you going to stream on TikTok next to normal YouTube and Kick? No, I don't think so. I set up the Rumble stream and everything, so that's good to go. I just have to decide if it's actually worth like try streaming or quad streaming or whatever. I'm not sure. Have we seen the Mudahar and Hassan clips yet? No, believe it or not, I wasn't digging through and looking at a bunch of extra content last night. So I'm not caught up on anything going on. So maybe we'll look to it on the sub today.
I've won on tough Trump turf 3 times. I've won when governors face red waves, all while bringing the Democratic Big Ten together and never.
Dean exploded through TikTok, you could too. Yeah, but I watched actually with a friend. I was watching some of these the TikTok debater guys, but I think they do like special TikTok streams. Like I don't think you could just like embed an ordinary stream or rebroadcast an ordinary stream on TikTok or whatever. They have like a drag feature to like bring people into debate and everything. So we could theoretically do it. It would have to just be like a special event, like a Twitter Space thing. It wouldn't just be like I'm shooting out like a 10-hour stream to TikTok or whatever.
Ever sacrificing our values. I want to bring these skills as I run to be chair of the Democratic Party. When you outperform the top of the ticket by 24%, you know a thing or two about brass tacks campaigns.
Damn.
We have to show up and compete everywhere. Trim margins in red rural turf. Meet people where they are, in language and with new technology. Cede nothing. We need to rededicate to a populist message. I've stood up to big pharma and utility companies, taken on corporate welfare, fought corruption, and given money back to middle-class families.
That speech you gave to Paul yesterday was absolute cinema. It gave me chills. One of the things that people have a really hard time doing is when you're looking at historical events or when you're looking at things that are away from you, it's hard to understand that everybody involved is like a human and there's like a bunch of human things going on. When we talk about like our environment, like if I were to say something, you would have so much context for the statement that you would evaluate it in such a different way than if you read it like in a history book, right? Like if I were to tell you that, like George Washington said that the United States, was the strongest and best country in the world or something like, I don't know, like some statement like that. You would look at it and be like, oh, wow, okay, Washington said this, like, yeah, this is cool, that's fine. There's no political context, there's no personal context, there's no societal context. You just like see, like, oh, ex-president said it, that's fine. But if I were to tell you that like Biden said that America is the best country in the world, you're loading it with so much more information. Biden said that because you have like a personal attachment to it. And there's a whole bunch of environmental things. So sometimes it's good when you're evaluating other things to remember that it sits inside like potentially like a totally different cultural context. Somebody emailed me something really interesting actually about it was interesting, so I deleted it, of course. Fuck, what was it? Hold on. Oh. Actually, fuck, I might just read this whole email. I thought it was interesting. Actually, I'm just going to read this guy's whole email. I think it was pretty interesting. Have you looked at the Articles of Confederation, whether by yourself or on stream? It pales in comparison to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It was written by a committee that was sort of non-committal in comparison to the Constitutional Convention 10 years later. The language is really wishy-washy. For instance, they talk about the states being friends. It would seem that the articles were written with the intent not to offend any of the members of the committee they assembled to write it. The Constitution, as we know it, on the other hand, was the product of a tense, secretive convention. The delegates, especially from the agrarian South, were especially paranoid of the motivations of the delegates from the more commerce-oriented North. If I'm remembering this correctly, the Southerners thought the convention was mostly a ploy by the North to establish a country that catered to Northern values, such as the idea of a strong central government. The previous Articles of Confederation were an abject failure, because nothing could effectively get done. But where do these delegates at the convention in Philadelphia even start with writing a new constitution from scratch, much less allow the delegates from the North and South to even come close to trusting each other? These aren't rhetorical questions. These were issues that the Founding Fathers, I've heard them be called brothers or guys, all had to struggle with. I don't know if you've taken time to imagine all that from that perspective. To add another dimension, let's talk about some of the main players. Hamilton and Madison were both in or near their 30s by 1787. One, a New York lawyer who attended the King's College, which became Columbia University, who immigrated from the West Indies. Madison went to law school but didn't become a lawyer. Hamilton would have had a lot of influence in establishing the executive branch, and Madison had a hand in carving out the bicameral legislative branch. They would later become enemies. Madison became more of a stalwart of the Virginian and Southern ideology instead of being able to look past it, though I admit I could probably read up more on this all. George Washington, the ever-successful general from the Revolutionary War, who towered over everyone except fellow Virginian Thomas Jefferson and maybe some others, was unanimously, if I recall correctly, selected by his peers at the convention to preside over it. He's in his late 40s or 50s at this point. And then there's Benjamin Franklin, who kind of is a lot like the Warren Buffett or Mark Cuban of his time. He's way older at this point, in his late 70s or early 80s, and is kind of there as a founder emeritus. He is so old that he was around in the 1760s and at the time stubbornly believed that everyone else was wrong about rebelling against England. Well, everyone here would have been around in the 1760s, right? Or maybe he meant older in the 1760s, I guess, which provided so much opportunity for him that when he had to face the music on that topic, when things got too tense in the meetings, he would say absurd things to bring levity, like proposing the turkey to be the national bird. I write all this not to show off all that I supposedly know, but to demonstrate that these men were human just like us, even though history likes to put them on a pedestal, or in a more cynical view, reduce them to just being wealthy, land-owning slaveholders for the most part. He has some other things in here too, but just to say that when we read, sometimes when I'm like going through a thing, I try to say like, oh, like these people were feeling this at the time, or these things were, this was going on at the time. It's good to kind of like contextualize like what's happening in an area, because it, I think, puts everything in like a little light, or like it allows you to view things differently, basically. Or not, I wouldn't even say differently. It just fleshes it out a bit more.
people where they are in language and with new technology.
Will you ever review the entire pod save with Hassan or Jenk versus Hassan? We went over, I think 40 or 50 minutes of the pod save thing. Listen, I don't want to be a 24/7 Hassan reaction channel, all right? If he wants to react to me all the time, that's fine. He's got a lot of new material to go over. But I don't need, I'm good. I don't need there's other shit to talk about. There has to be something in the world to talk about besides Hassan. There has to be.
Trim margins in red rural turf. Meet people where they are in language and with new technology. Cede nothing. We need to rededicate to a populist message. I've stood up to big pharma and utility companies, taken on corporate welfare, fought corruption, and given money back to middle-class families. And we need to move on from the era of hair-on-fire texts and emails to inclusive, empowering communication that builds relationships, not opt-outs and unsubscribes. We can do this together.
James, he's done this work. I registered as a Democrat.
I like the qualifier. Former lifelong Republican.
Because of him. He's gone to bat for people like me.
Democrats aren't supposed to win my town, but James did.
Veteran and advocate. Advocate for what?
As a vet, I appreciate the fight he brings to what he does.
For farmers in rural areas, we're overlooked.
Farmer and mother.
James built his votes here by showing up and having our back.
He's inclusive, dedicated, and committed to the values we share.
Some of you may be skeptical. I'm not a DC insider or come from machine politics. The Republicans I beat time after time were also skeptical. But we outworked them, outraised them, outmessaged them, outorganized them every time. Let's build a better Democratic Party together.
This might be something we dig into in I was going to say today, but we'll give it a week. For the people running for the DNC chair. Apparently does this not feel fake as fuck? How can we compete with Hulk Hogan stripping live on stage? True. Especially without a president, right? Because the Democrats don't have a president right now. Apparently the head of the DNC, like the DNC chair, is a very, very, very important role. But it's an internal election, I think. You should be firmer on the leak shit, in my opinion. It is generally disgusting how many people spread revenge porn, even mentioning the vehement homophobia, even if it doesn't affect you personally. What am I? There's nothing I can say. I mean, somebody got into an account, leaked a bunch of shit. I don't know. There's not much. I mean, it's pretty. What do you want me to say? It's pretty bad. It's pretty annoying. Pretty cringe, but. Kabada goob shibu. Well, it is what it is. I know you're opposed to populism, but if this guy can outrun the top of the ticket by 24 points, and it seems there is an international move towards populism, is there anything wrong with embracing, or at least appearing to embrace, left-wing populism for issues we care about with our same end goal? I don't know if being populist is what matters. I think that there are just some traits that populists have that makes them more likable. But I don't know if it's because they're populists. I've been putting a lot more stock into this. If you're a good presenter or if you have good stage presence, that's really all that matters. It's one of the most important things for literally anything, whether it's a presentation in media, whether it's a political, running for office or whatever. I think that there's a certain type of presentation. Somebody was linking Alex Jones videos. I don't even know what the fuck I was watching. He was next to Owen Schroyer. It feels a little too related to the current memes. But I think it was him. It was him talking about like he doesn't suck a dong, but if he did, it would be he would do it the best or whatever. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm watching like everybody's watching this like making fun of Alex Jones, thinking that Alex Jones is being serious. But I'm pretty sure Alex Jones was just like fucking memeing. I'm like 82% sure that he's just memeing his way through it. I don't know. When I look at like a lot of the right wing dudes, they're just very fucking funny. Populist rhetoric is extremely emotive, and the leaders are convincing in that. No, well, like, so I'm trying to think of Bernie Sanders, right? That's the person that I'm thinking too. I'm thinking of I guess like as like my example, because I would always call Bernie Sanders like a left wing populist, but Bernie Sanders also has like he wants to work through institutions and stuff. Bernie Sanders isn't like a burn it all down, you know, type of guy. He's not like we need to destroy. Usually he'll talk about like reform or whatever. He focuses a lot on like donor money and shit. Can you name any funny Dem supporters? Yes, all of us can. We can all name one or two, but put it in chat. All of us know we can all name one or two. There's one that should come to everybody's mind. Besides me, obviously. Okay, holy shit. That was not at all that was not the unison I was expecting. Fucking Jon Stewart. I think that Jon Stewart was the left-wing guy for a long time. As much as he would say he just does a comedy show, or as much as he would say that, you know, it wasn't supposed to be serious. Like, a lot of people looked to Jon Stewart for a lot of their kind of like political information, believe it or not. I think it hurt that he took such a long break from politics and just recently came back, so he lost out on the big wave of anti-Trump people. I mean, a little bit, but I think that I'm trying to think. I don't know if Jon Stewart ever wanted to be like a serious political commentator. I think he enjoyed his time on The Daily Show. I don't know if Jon Stewart was ever like, I really want to be, you know, like a political pundit. I'm not sure. Because every time, unless this was just like a cope, I guess, but like every single time people would press him on like, why don't you do serious political stuff? He's like, I'm on Comedy Central, bro. It's just memes. It's just jokes here. I'm not doing like real political work. So, but maybe that was just like a cope or an excuse because he wasn't holding people accountable. But I mean, he was on Comedy Central, so. Did Bill Maher's anti-vax shit kill his credibility? No, I think Bill Maher's always kind of been like on an island. His Apple show was much more serious, and he has his weekly show podcast on YouTube. He's more serious about it now from Josiah. Yeah, sure, he is now, but I don't know if, but I mean, like was it over a decade off that he took from doing any, like, when did Jon Stewart retire from the Daily Show? That feels gross to think about that it was a decade. Hold on. Jon Stewart retires Daily Show. Was it 2015? Holy shit. Like, it feels like he literally has a bit about how he's getting older and he's becoming more Republican and he's becoming lamer, but right now he's definitely more Republican because there's no space for him on the left. Is he actually Republican at all, or is he just like not like crazy progressive woke or whatever? How often do your AirPods make that stupid fucking sound? Wait, did it just make this noise? The bloop bloop, like the Find My thing? No, he is crazy progressive woke. Yes, it did. Apparently sometimes your AirPods can get disconnected, or I don't even know how to explain it. They don't ID as yours anymore, but they still have that Find My code in it. So it's acting like, oh shit, wait, mine are actually out of the case. I think they're my room. Fuck, never mind. That's a totally different code. Sorry. Sometimes they'll lose the Find My thing, so it beeps like you've stolen it, or I guess like somebody else is tracking it, but there's no way to like undo it, which is really annoying. But okay. Do you watch his podcast at all? He's not progressive woke or Republicans. Chad is retarded. He's just very 2015 Democrat aid poll. Oh. I'm wondering if you don't take the Yarvin, Thiel, Vance, Quarter, and their ideology seriously. There's an interesting, rich and dark genealogy of thought and social phenomena there to dig into. I don't know. The issue is that, like, I feel like ever since I'm feeling, I don't want to say I feel vindicated in this because I didn't think it would be this bad. But one of the things that I was saying over and over again was that if Trump gets elected, like, the worst thing about Trump getting elected is that he got elected. And it is showing that all the stuff before it didn't matter. And I don't know if it's just because I read X, which is like, man, what a platform X is. It really feels like Republicans are just like mask off now. Like, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about any, like, there's no more pretending to be like, oh yeah, like, we want small government and we don't want to censor everybody and we want to be like the party of like respect. Like, they're totally done with all that. And now it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. Like, talking about some political things, it feels kind of like a joke. Like, does anybody actually give a fuck about any of this shit? I have no idea. Like, when I say this shit, I mean things like rule of law or the Department of Justice. Like, now it just kind of feels like an open joke. Like if you were to go 15 years ago and tell a Republican, like, you guys are going to weaponize the DOJ, they'd be like, no, we're not. And then it feels like if you were to go to a Republican in 2020 and say, you guys are going to weaponize the DOJ, they'll say like, no, or if we do, it's because you guys deserved it. You did it first. But now it feels like if you were to go to a conservative, like a Trump voter, and say, you're going to weaponize the DOJ, the conservative would just say, yeah, we are, because we are righteous and we're going to destroy you and take out everything that doesn't represent what we want it to be. And we don't even care what the reason is. It's like, okay, well, Jesus. Was that Churchill quote you mentioned in the Vice interview even real? If you're not a liberal when you're 25, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by the time you're 35, you have no brain. One of the things that I feel like I've learned is basically 80% of the quotes, 80% of the quotes that are appealed to, applied to, accredited to. Wait, what's what I'm looking for? Credited to? Attributed to. Like 80% of the quotes that are attributed to Churchill are either have never been said before. Well, somebody said them, I guess it was a quote, or it's not Churchill at all saying it. I think that's like, Churchill's just like the guy that you, Churchill's just the guy that you put as like the quote if you don't know who actually said it, or if you want a quote to sound better, I guess you just say it came from Churchill. That is the same for most quotes. Yeah, maybe most quotes are poorly attributed, or attributed. Yeah, attributed to. Are you ever gonna play PUBG with Moon ever again? Maybe someday. I feel like I have so much stuff to do right now. Games just do not captivate me or draw my interest at all. I don't know. I blame the Vyvanse. It zombified me. Degenerates like you are the reason Kamala lost. Real Americans tired of your ilk expect a return to decency where disgusting people like you are shunned and shamed. True. I'm going to pick up a wife immediately and rape her repeatedly and then tell the government that they're not allowed to intervene because she's my property. We need to go back to true conservative values. Yes. Yes, King. Yes. My face when I watch my 12-year-old daughter die in the operating room because she can't have an abortion after her uncle raped her because I live in Indiana. Yes, King. You're on some King shit. Think of your community building, little bro. Games help there. I mean, that's one way to do community stuff, but if I don't participate in it, there's I think they die off fairly quickly. CBS News poll finds Trump starts on positive note as most approve of transition handling. Good job. Do you think Kamala or Biden will get any credit for that at all? Like that, like this, like reading stuff like this is crazy. Like it's hard to. I imagine I'm just kind of waiting for. I feel like it's set in later. I think people like Josiah. I don't know if Josiah's still in chat. Were saying that they were mega demotivated after the election, and I was like, I think it's fine. But now maybe I'm hitting my slump. Maybe I have like a 2 week, not even a 2 week, like a 3 week delay, and now I'm like, oh fuck, Jesus, maybe it's hitting me now. So I'm hoping in like a week or two, it'll feel less insane. They are talking about the cabinet appointments, not the literal transition, right? It doesn't really matter what they're talking about. When you have a guy who literally did an insurrection to prevent the peaceful transfer of power, and now people are approving of his transition handling, let alone the fact that he got elected again, it's just insane. But this is amazing content for you. I've never viewed it that way. I don't know why people say that. Maybe for some people it is, but I don't really take joy or pleasure in like watching my country being destroyed. There's plenty of like really good content that I don't cover on my stream, like ever. Like I don't do breaking news, obviously, and that's a huge revenue driver for a lot of people. It's just boring to me. What do you want me to say? He's dead. Okay, we'll know more about it tomorrow. Do you think Dems and their policies will change radically over the next 4 years, or will it just be a change in how those policies are presented to the people? It has to be a change for the presentation. People get so fixated on policies, and they super just don't matter at all. I don't think it matters. What mic arm are you using? This is a Elgato mic arm, but it's one of the newer like pneumatic ones. I think it was like $180. I super recommend it over the ordinary like screws or whatever. They get loose and shit. Fuck that. I swapped out all the ones in the studios with these two so people can move them more. So I can shout at them more. They're not talking into their microphone. Oh, I don't know what to do about this. If you want to, since we're talking about audio.
To articulate.
My editor yelled at me. He didn't yell at me, but he brought this up. That, oh, it doesn't happen up here. That when people hit the desk, you can hear the bass, and you hear it in his a lot. Listen.
Joe Biden was completely unable to articulate a defensive.
He has a high pass filter on to cut out some of the lows, but you can still hear it happened a lot in this video. Every time his hand hits the table, you can hear the little thump.
His policies, right? Like the fact that there is inflation and people are mad about inflation is not a reason alone.
Not there.
Like that explains that can explain why we lost if you accept that we had no agency.
Madness. The easiest thing that they
actually that's not true. They pay into Medicare, they pay into Social Security.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
Then
the rumbling. That was the rumbling.
Of living in America, or a boss taking advantage of you. They can't go to the police, right?
Yeah.
Then they say, oh, well, they don't pay taxes. Actually, that's not true. They pay into Medicare, they pay into Social Security, and they don't get the benefits of it back. And then they say, well, all their drive.
I think the Caleb Hammer calls out people hitting the table on his show all the time. Nice. I think you just need a better shock mount. But it's annoying because the SM7Bs are supposed to have built-in shock mounts. That's why you can't hear it on this one at all. Because I have like a mega super ultra huge shock mount here. Lawson Harrison. It doesn't feel like it's just content anymore. Yeah. I think that's part of it. But I think it has more to do with just like, you ever play pretend with somebody? I think we've all had this friend, or maybe you guys were this person. You ever like play pretend with a person when you're younger and you're like shooting darts at each other, or you're doing some shit, or you're playing Legos, or you've got like a hero, and your friend always has like the most invincible character ever. And it's like, oh, he can breathe underwater, and he can fly, and he can. The people that made Yasuo, by the way, did this. No, I'm just kidding. But there's like a million things, and at some point, it's just like it's so disconnected that you're like, okay, this is like cringe. Like I don't think I want to play with you anymore. Like this is just dumb. You have like every single superpower or whatever. For some reason, like talking about politics with people and especially watching some of the people. And I don't know if I guess maybe I blame the Vyvanse for this. Like especially when you start reading or understanding anything, it's just so like boring and stupid. Like watching Tim Pool, like that conversation with Sam Cedar, like in my mind, that should be almost like a career-ending conversation. Like you're so obviously dodging every single question. You're so obviously lying about things that you've received in the past. You're so obviously lying about the amount of money, whether or not it's comparable to anything. Like all of these are, but the fact that like there are tons of people that watch it, probably the majority that watch that sided against Sam because it's just like, but it's not like we're disagreeing on, what are the motivations for some leader to do whatever, what are the downstream impacts of some economic, implemented policy, like it's not like these things where, okay, sure, reasonable minds can disagree and you can even have like a substantive argument. It's just like the most banal, retarded shit. And it's like, okay, I don't know, it just feels stupid. Like if somebody wants to argue, for instance, that tariffs will lead to a revitalization if somebody wants to argue that tariffs will lead to some long-term revitalization of manufacturing in the United States because it will force us to bring back parts of our supply chain, optimize them through capital and technological advancements, and overcome like the new price hurdle and give incentives for people that are manufacturing, like robots or more efficient machinery. Basically, now that you've created a certain price floor, these technology investments become more lucrative. So in a way, the tariffs are almost functioning as a form of like government incentive for domestic manufacturing, right? And so by all this, in the long term, tariffs will actually help domestic manufacturing, right? Okay, sure, that's an argument you could have. I don't know 100% if I would agree with it, but at the very least, you're standing on like historical ground, right? I believe that Japan used a lot of protectionist policies to grow their domestic manufacturing. Now, Japan produces like some of the most prestigious and hosts some of the most prestigious electronic companies in the world, right? But if you want to say like, well, tariffs won't raise prices on anything, and it's like, you understand that that's by definition, that is what a tariff is supposed to do, is raise prices, right? Like that's how it makes things more competitive. It's like if you have a tariff that doesn't raise a price, then your tariff literally failed. That doesn't make any, we're just like, it's such a world of, it's so cringe. Japan had the largest growth during the Meiji period when it liberalized and had very low tariffs. I haven't studied this in depth, but my understanding is post-World War II, Japan engaged in quite a bit of protectionist policy to grow its domestic electronics firms. I guess I could be wrong on that because I feel like I read that. I don't know how to also say that. Sorry, Meiji? Isn't that when Kenshin complained that he wasn't allowed to carry a sword anymore? I don't know. What about people who say it's all a negotiation tactic from Trump? Negotiation for what? What is he negotiating for? Everybody always says Trump does these things as negotiation tactics. What did he negotiate for? What did we get? Wait, what? Audio engineer here. Yeah, it's hard to avoid. Sorry, fuck. I like perfectly can't scroll on this message. Shock mount, of course, but besides that pad, the top of the desk, nothing stops the lows. Oh, I think just a shock mount would fix it. None of the mics in the studio are shock mounted. I should actually put that. I should get those shock mounts for studio mics. I've got to talk about the comedy stuff. What do you want?
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, so you've heard of Kill Tony, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on the whole comedy sphere, and I think this is one of the big things that we need to change on the Democrat side if we want to win. For example, number one, we got to just bring back racism, like racist jokes on the left. And the reason I bring up Kill Tony is because, you saw the Puerto Rico comment he made at the Trump rally, right?
Yeah, the 50 million thing that was supposed to sink Trump's campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't do anything. So I listened to his podcast, the Kill Tony thing.
Mm-hmm.
He is like objectively really insufferable. but he's also fucking hilarious, right?
Yeah.
And the way his show works is he brings on comedians, they do 1 minute, and then they chat, do racist jokes, whatever. They do jokes on everything, right?
Mhm.
And if you look at the podcast, it's like objectively very diverse. Like you got black people, Asian people, disabled people, trans people, and they're all doing real comedy, and it's very, very funny. And then on this point, sorry, I'm a little out of breath.
You're good.
On this point, like you see, the reason we lost the culture sphere, that's where Joe Rogan came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
He came from comedy. Theo Vaughn, all that culture stuff originates from comedy. And in order to regain that like strength in the culture, I think Democrats need to just like completely scourge the whole woke culture, whatever stuff, and bring back like racist jokes amongst a diverse group, right? Like imagine like your ideal friend group is an Asian guy, a black guy, a Latino, and a trans woman, all making the most raunchy, like insanely racist jokes to each other. I also mentioned that like Shane Gillis, I've listened to his podcast and he says he's a Trump enjoyer, right? But he's not a Trump supporter. And he has bits too about how like as he gets older, he's becoming more Republican and whatever. But like at his heart, he's pretty liberal. But it sucks to see that he has no space on the left to make those kinds of jokes and to like be based.
Yeah. So let me restate what you're saying less inflammatorily. In a less inflammatory manner. Okay, I agree with what you're saying. Actually, I don't think Cake has posted these yet because I haven't given him a post yet. But part of the community guideline stuff that I'm working on getting up on the site is like I generally don't have rules against like racism per se or like slurs or racist jokes or edgy jokes or whatever. What the focus should be on is like bigotry, right? I think one of the big issues, it's funny because we talked about this, like I say we as in like the gaming community talked about this and the internet, at large, like 8 to 10 years ago, especially during the Gamergate era, that one of the big problems that people had was this hyperfixation on like language, like the words themselves, and not actually looking at any of the things being conveyed. And it ends up in this like ultra fucking cringy world where people are going to assume that what you're saying is like bigoted or racist just because of like a word you use or a joke that you say. And I mean, that is a perspective that you can have, but nobody in the real world functions that way. Like nobody in the real world operates that way. And the only people that operate that way are young white progressives. And so you wind up in this weird cringe world where you've got these young white people who are thinking they're like saving like the Hispanic people with the word like Latinx or Latina or whatever the fuck, and you're getting rid of all these racist jokes because the only people who are racist are white people, right? Black people would never be racist. Latinos or Hispanic people or Asian, nobody else is racist, just white people. So that weird crusade, I think, kind of permeated through a lot of the party, and it destroyed people's abilities to just evaluate like what is a joke, right? And there's one thing that I spoke about before that's really difficult for people to do is people can't have like second order conversations where you don't actually have I wish I could remember the example that this would come up a lot before. You don't actually have an issue with like one level of the thing. You have an issue with like the second level of a thing, but you misidentify it. So for instance, we can talk about me platforming Fuentes, right? If somebody wants to argue Destiny platforming Nick Fuentes is bad because he shouldn't have access to this audience or whatever, that's fine. But that's fundamentally a different argument than Destiny is a Nazi and that's why he platformed Nick Fuentes. And people on the left just fucking destroy that. Hassan, not to make it personal, but Hassan does that with me right now, right? Where Hassan's like, oh, Destiny is actually anti-Semitic because, and then he points to like an anti-Semitic joke that I made in chat. But like, everybody around me knows I'm not an anti-Semitic person. How could I be when Israel pays me so much money to defend the Mossad? No, but like it's obvious that there's not like a racist or anti-Semitic like feeling. Yeah. So people going back to the stuff that you were saying. Yeah, people need to focus way more on bigotry and less on just like edgy jokes because God, it's so fucking cringe. And everybody's pointed this out. ContraPoint's pointed out with trans people. Obviously, I've pointed out a million times. Yeah, it's so cringe, that hyperfixation on just like an edgy joke. It's like Jesus.
Right. Yeah. Also, sorry, I was just winded. I just came back from a run and I knew I had to talk about this. But
like, you do, like
for example,
exercise, or were you just like running home?
No, I was running around the block and I was listening to to you talk, and I was like, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic specifically, so I wanted
Are
to
you one of those
talk
guys?
about it.
Do you jog in place at stoplights?
No, I just run around the block.
Oh.
I like go in a circle.
Okay. All right. Go for it.
But a couple more things. Like, have you heard of Stavros? He's a comedian as well, kind of in the space.
Yes. He came from Kung Fu, right? But he doesn't talk about it anymore.
I think so. Yeah. If he had a discussion that he had with Theo Von recently, and he talks to Theo Von about why he thinks Trump is going to be bad in general. And you can hear Theo Von. You can just see that he's very captured. Like, Theo Von is a very reasonable guy. He had Bernie Sanders on, and he listens to Stavros, and then he brings up the classic, Russia talking points that are beamed directly into everyone's brains. But since there's no place for someone like Theo Von to perform comedy and Shane Gillis and all them, they just have no choice but to be captured by the whole Joe Rogan sphere.
Yeah, because when you sit in like a certain environment, and people will pretend that they're resistant to this, or they'll pretend it doesn't happen, but everybody knows it happens. If you sit in a certain environment where you hear a thing said over and over again, you're going to start to believe it after a while. Like that's normal, like human nature for 99% of humanity. So yeah, if there's absolutely no place for you on the left because they're too woke or they can't handle any edgy humor or anything at all, and then all you do is spend time on the right, like joking with people, yeah, you're going to pick up these. First, there'll be jokes and memes, and then they'll be like a little bit more serious. And then before you know it, these people are like not vaccinating their kids because they're genuinely scared of, the health implications.
Right. Yeah, I guess it just comes back down to like just absolutely kicking out of the progressive people from the party that are, woke scolding and everything, because they're the ones holding us back and not letting us. Because I'm really liberal. I had a gay roommate last year, and we would make. He was a gay black guy. He was bisexual, and we would constantly make jokes about each other. And I'm Latino, so younger people my age, and especially white people who listen to these comedy podcasts and everything, they get sucked into that culture sphere. And I think comedy is a huge root, all that culture capture that the Republicans have been able to do, like stem from that comedy sphere. And you talked about Jon Stewart, and he's a good example. But like you mentioned a couple of days ago, he came from politics and then became a comedian or something like that, right? He's a political commentator first. So we need more like comedians like Stavros and maybe Shane Gillis if he can be released from the Joe Rogan, stranglehold. But
I don't disagree, but it's just people need to be very careful on the left when they talk about this and when they do this. Like, getting these people over into our camp has to be like a byproduct of behavior, not like a we've got to get these guys. We got to get these guys over to over to our camp. Like, it can't be that. You just have to create spaces where people feel like more safe, like being in those spaces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I guess the point would just be like to stop the whole woke scolding thing, and that allows that environment for the edgy jokes to like prosper. I guess you were ahead of the time in 2016 with your whole N-word manifesto. It just comes back to that. But,
sure, but to be clear, I wasn't. Yeah. It was not a manifesto on saying the N-word, but
I know. I'm just fucking with you. All right, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, have fun. Be careful. Who joined?
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Well, I got like 20. No, I've got 2 minutes. What do you want? Because I got a lot of shit I got to cover today. But what's up?
Two. Wait, you almost told me you had 20, and now you got 2.
Well, it depends. What do you want to chat about?
Okay, I'll just fucking cut to the chase. Chalakian.
What's that?
Some shit happened.
The Aegon guy?
Just want. Yeah, Chalakian.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just like a member of some like crazy weird cult thing.
He's not. He's not real, man.
I think he is real, unfortunately.
Okay, so here's what happened. I went on an episode of an old podcast that I used to do, right? And I asked the guy that runs it, I was like, hey, have you seen this Destiny meme where he's kind of like going through all this bot post stuff and he stumbles on Chalakian, right? And he said no. And so we watched it together, right? An edit of it, of you chilling and watching this, right? As this is happening, right? The numbers on that stream jump from the normal like 900 to like 4,000, right? And suddenly the chat is swarming with bots, like obvious like bot shit, right? The next day, right? I do the like YouTube streams that are kind of like TikTok streams, the vertical streams.
Okay.
Just because algorithmically, like for a guy like me that doesn't get many views, it gets me in front of people who've never seen me, right? So I start talking about what happened the night before. I've probably maxed out on that stream at like maybe 300-400 viewers at a time. It's real casual shit. Dude, as I'm talking about Chalakian and the bots and the botting that goes on, right? I go up to 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 4. Dude, it's the biggest stream I've ever done on the channel. Now,
Wait, you said that this was on TikTok?
No, this was on YouTube live streams.
On
like
YouTube Live, the YouTube Shorts lives, or just like YouTube Live?
Short, yeah. The one that's like TikTok, yeah, YouTube Shorts live.
I can't say for sure about the YouTube Shorts thing, but I do know that for TikTok, I do know that for TikTok, because the algorithm is so swingy, because there are so many people viewing content, that if you start to go hot on that algo, you can get like 10,000 viewers in like 2 minutes.
Right.
You can lose them all in like 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. I've noticed that, right? Like people will come in and it's like obvious they bounce right off the content because they're just kind of rapidly scrolling, right? The chat, right, becomes, okay, I'm a fat guy, right? So it becomes fat guy, fat guy, fat guy. And then it becomes like, I have a beard, right? It becomes beard. I wear glasses. It becomes glasses. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the 3 things that you would expect a non-human eye to scan the content, right, and come like, what can I talk about this piece of content to bot engagement with it? Glasses, mustache, beard, right? And it's just like fucking all kinds of different usernames that are all coming in this swarm of what's got to be 4,000 bots, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all saying this. The ones that do interact in the chat are all saying literal bot content. I'm sure you could probably recognize it too after being in the game as long as you have, right? Like,
yeah, no, but that doesn't mean that he himself is a bot, right? But I'm sure there's a lot of bot activity around the shit that they do, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm wondering though. So I was expressly talking Chalakian. Bot swarm happens 2 times in a row on relatively unknown, obscure content. Like, this is not shit that your people are going to just like stumble on, right? Mm-hmm. I'm doing YouTube shorts, smoking weed in my backyard. And I go like, man, I mentioned Chalakian on the Drunken Peasants the other night and fucking 3,000 bots showed up. And then as I'm talking about it, 4,000 bots show up on my shitty little fucking YouTube live stream.
Okay.
Why the fuck would this guy be surrounded? Because I don't know. Maybe you can explain to me. Maybe you know better how a single person or a single entity without a lot of help would bot 4,000 things. Is that like something that like I'm sure like a hyper nerd with an
I haven't seen the stream. I haven't seen the numbers. There's no way off of one thing I could ever possibly make a guess, other than either it was a topic that people were interested in and it started to get picked up in the algo.
Okay, well, do you want me to I don't want you like honestly like dude, if it's a waste of your time or whatever. But if you take me at my word, that typically I get around 100, 150, maybe 200 viewers, and I had over 4,000 at one point in the stream, right? And the engagement in the chat was literally solid bots, right?
Okay.
And this has never happened to me before. I've done hundreds and hundreds of these live streams, right? I'm pretty fucking, I know how the metric swings when I'm in the algorithm or whatever. This was not that. This was somebody that had 4,000 accounts that somehow figured out I was talking about.
Oh, some people in my chat are saying since we spoke yesterday that apparently a lot of people in my chat were watching you too. So maybe that boosted you in the algo and that caused
No. This was way before this. This was a week and a half before
there's no way I can ever solve this problem. So I don't know what you're looking for me. I can't possibly. I have no idea how I could ever solve it.
I'm not asking you to solve it.
Right, I don't know what I could. I don't know what I can say. I have no idea what I can offer up. Yeah, it maybe there is a crazy secret Matrix bot guy on the internet that follows it around, or you got swung up in the algorithm, or there are bots that target it, or some combination of the two. Like I have no idea what I could possibly analyze this with, or what.
I'm not necessarily asking you to solve this for me. I don't think you're the dude with the answer, right? Mm-hmm. But as a relatively small streamer in comparison to you, I'm wondering how you feel about, because some of these bots are more sophisticated than your typical like, hi, this content is great, smiley face, right? This is like, there's some level of semi-human interaction going on where they can tell, you know, a few things about you from looking at you. So like, I asked you a question way before the election, and you kind of dismissed it a little bit. I said, do you think that we've reached a critical mass of like where people will believe anything that you know, feeds their ego rather than being confronted with facts, right? Are we,
I don't think
living
I
in a
dismissed that at all. I think it's one of the biggest issues that we have right now. Yeah, of course.
Well, okay, but hold on.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and look at that interaction, you said, if that's the case, I don't even want to do this anymore. Right?
I guess I would have to know the context of. I mean, like if you were telling me that in response to me working on something, then I mean, obviously, I'm trying to work with the idea that there are some people out there that are fact driven or care more about.
Well, that's what it was, right? I was asking you because you were making a document, right?
Sure.
And I was asking you, like, do you think that this angle of attack works at a time when it just seems like people are going to grab a belief and go with it, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm working like.
And then that's further complicated by the idea that these people that I'm thinking, and maybe you're thinking a lot of times, our interaction are actually just botted content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many of the large streamers outside of yourself could have massively inflated numbers, right, of these bots that just, and I'm not even saying they're doing it, right? I'm saying that certain kinds of content are pushed algorithmically by swarms of these bots. The power that there is inherent in that for a big social media company to point at my shitty little stream and go like, see, 4,000 people watched it, right? It's like billions of dollars worth of fraud going on, right? Probably in your community. I would imagine if it's happening in my community and around little things I do, it's got to be huge.
Yeah, it's
right?
a really big problem. Yeah. Yep.
And billions of dollars of fraud, and you are contending with what looks like to the uninitiated people, right? To the uninitiated kind of drive-by viewer, as if you're getting dunked on in this stream, or you're getting fucked on in this Twitter post, right? And what are the chances that any of that engagement is real? What percentage of it is real? How much extra attention does it garner from people like you, right, who have big platforms, even though 50, 70, 80% of it is just bullshit, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to bring up specifics, but there's like a whole bunch of shit about you right now on Twitter. How much of that shit is just botted
Definitely
bullshit?
all botted deep fake for sure.
I'm not talking about, I don't care about the deep fakes, dude. Suck a dick. I don't give a fuck. Good on you. But like, how much of the people that are pretending that
I understand. Yes, I understand what you're saying. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, or like I understand that you think these things.
I don't know what you're supposed to say either.
We've talked about these before. Yes, they're really, 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 really big problems. Yeah, these are probably the largest problems on the internet right now. Yes, I agree with you. I don't know what you want to add. Yeah, the problem with a lot of these bot things is that you can see it, for instance, on Reddit. I think Reddit is a really good descriptor of how human behavior works. That if you go into a thread and you see one comment and that comment is upvoted 10 times, that's going to influence how you view the content, right? And that general paradigm, I think, probably translates over to almost everything that you do in life. If you go to a YouTube video and you look at the comments and the comments are overwhelmingly negative, that's going to change the way that you view the YouTube video. Or if you go on Twitter, or if you go on whatever social media platform, if there are certain types of comments beneath a thing, they influence the way that you view the thing. Yeah, of course. This is why people that are like very dedicated online will try to like get their fan bases to go and spam comments in places, not just because it makes it look better to like the fans, but because outsiders that watch a thing will think it looks better too. It influences the way that people view the thing. So there's huge money and huge bot networks that are around like this type of behavior, especially on X. Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, this is. Yeah, I don't.
But
I mean,
nobody, like nobody's at the regulatory wheel about it. Even though, like, I don't know if you would admit this, but I think like what people would call old media is dead.
Old media is definitely not dead, but alternative media is definitely like a big competitor now. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so yeah, you would, and maybe you're right. Maybe it's not as like far as dead, But I just think that like the worm has turned in this last election. I think that like online content creators and non-traditional media were way more fucking influential than anybody with ABC, NBC, Fox, or anything next to their name. Al Jazeera or whatever whatever your flavor is, right?
Sure. What about it is?
But well, here's the problem, right? We're talking about rampant fraud.
Oh,
and botting
here's the
going
issue.
on in
I understand. There's something I say.
Right?
I understand. Okay, hold on. Do you have anything else for us? Here's the reality is right now it probably benefits conservatives more than not, so they're not going to say anything about it. You can't bring up any of this to them because they'll immediately just start screaming Russiagate, and then they will shit all over themselves and roll over the floor and smear it on the walls. Like that's it. So the conservatives are out of the conversation. The people on the left, the far left, will also say Russiagate because they want to signal that they're not gay and lame like the center left libs, and the center left libs won't talk about anything having to do with it because now they're paranoid about having Trump derangement syndrome. So nobody in our entire media landscape right now can talk about it because Republicans are literally treasonous traitors to the country and don't give a fuck if foreign interference is happening as long as it's happening on their side, right? Which is why they don't care when Trump calls for Russia to leak emails, or why they don't care if Roger Stone is communicating with Guccifer, or why they don't care if WikiLeaks is only targeting one party. So there's nothing you can do about it, right? You can complain about it, which I do. It is a problem. I'm not trying to don't mistake my hand waving you as saying it's not a problem. I don't care about it. I do. It's really bad. It's just there's literally nothing other than fighting the good fight against the T-1000 fucking army of Russian Kremlin bots on the internet. That's really all you can do. And then you have to understand that nobody else at least on the right, none of those people are going to be having that conversation because they don't care. And then on the left, people.
If you're talking about fighting the T-1000, right? There are different ways to fight that, right?
No.
And
there's with the sophistication.
There are no like different tactics
with the sophistication of the technology right now. You need the heads of the companies to agree that it's a problem. You probably at this point need some sort of regulatory intervention, of which nobody likes anymore.
Well, wouldn't that preclude needing the heads of the companies then?
No,
right?
because for instance, when Twitter and the FBI were communicating before about bot accounts, that was a joint communication thing. It wasn't just the government telling Twitter what to do, despite people lying about it, and it wasn't Twitter taking orders from the government. It was like a joint thing of like, hey, we recommend us accounts, we'll look into them, and that's it. Nobody likes that collaboration anymore because everybody thinks it's fucking violation of freedom of speech. And then the heads of platforms like Elon doesn't do anything about it. He doesn't give a fuck about bots anymore. So what do? There's you can post, but you have to understand that you're screaming into an abyss that has like one human for every 2,000 bot accounts, and you have to try to make people understand that and fight against it and know that all of this is working against you. Plus, other real people can amplify and be used by it all at the same time. So yeah. It's fucked. It is probably one of the largest issues right now in media. I'm not hand waving you in that there's
I don't feel hand waved. I don't feel hand waved.
Yeah, it's frustrating. There's a lot to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. I didn't mean, I don't feel hand waved. I feel obviously I feel frustration coming off of you.
You
and
should.
I don't know
I do too. I get targeted by a lot of it. So
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, sure. Absolutely. And I mean, even in the microcosm of being a much smaller creator or whatever the fuck, I get targeted by the shit. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's harder for me because I come from a time where botting just wasn't something that was happening functionally.
Yeah, there was botting, but it was very obvious who the bots were. It was very limited in scope and nature. It was very expensive, either resource intensive or
right.
Yeah.
One thing that I deal with because I try and be chat interactive in a way that maybe a dude with a way bigger audience probably couldn't be. Right. I know you read your chat and shit, but you pick and choose. Mm-hmm. I try and follow where they're going, and one of the things that I've noticed is some of these people are clearly not real, but they're able to react to what I'm saying to a limited extent.
Yeah. There's I don't know what we read or what we watched, but the bots that exist today are very sophisticated. The FBI, or it might have been CISA, put out a big statement on how these accounts work. I think what was the name of the program? They called them souls, but
souls? That's just fucking why don't they?
Well, no. The way they could work is that you could literally spin up an entire net of individual accounts. You could give them certain character archetypes. You could give them certain backgrounds, type in a thing or whatever, and then they'll just go off and they will. Is it Meliator might be the name of the program. But these things exist. And I mean they're functional. They're out there now. Oh, it was the
But,
IC3. Yeah.
I mean, this is
Maybe?
bigger than just not wanting to be targeted by people saying mean things about, you know, my
No, it has to do with
appearance
how
or-
we feel about Israel, Palestine, and Russia, Ukraine. It has to do with how we feel about things like immigrants at the borders. It has to do with how we feel about whether or not Iman Khalif is a trans boxer. It has to do with everything. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The goal is
Yeah.
the goal is like the goal is to just make people feel like they live in a chaotic and untrustworthy and like deteriorating environment. That's the only goal.
Can I tell you that like this whole thing, and I didn't bring it up jokingly. I really do think this is a problem, and I was hoping that you did too. It's like, I brought it up because it kind of put me in that position, right? Where it's like, I've been doing what I do now and making a living at it for 10 years. How much of that was just fake, right?
Well, I mean, if you have actual engagement with fans and stuff, I mean, you can tell. What do you mean by what was
sure.
fake?
I mean, I've done meetups and stuff where fans come and meet me and shit. So I know like 100% of it isn't fake. But how many arguments have I gotten in online, right, or on social media that aren't fucking real, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I would say probably
somebody's like, "Hey, you're a fucking cuck to this."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fuck
A lot of it
you,"
is probably
and
fake.
then
A lot of it is probably not real. This is why if you look at how all of the big people on social media. It took me a while to learn this. I just figured this out last year. So my engagement is pretty much like this. If you look at like big social media accounts, you know, like the Candace Owens and Timples and all these people don't engage with people on Twitter. You just fire stuff out onto Twitter, then you leave it. You fire your tweet out and then you let it hang, and then the bots and whatever else do whatever. You're not actually having conversations with people on Twitter or engaging with people on Twitter. You just fire shit out and you leave it because you know that it's like a fucked platform. And that's where you leave like the normal humans to sit amongst the piles of T1000 bots to go and duke it out and fight with each other. And you hope that the bots are pushing people in your favor. That's it.
So is it more important now that we establish our common humanity rather than worrying about all of the fucking minutia of our politics?
Some people don't care about the common humanity. They care about if you agree with them first, then the humanity comes second. That's the issue.
I guess that's true.
Like, if you can get conservatives to care about humans or to care about America, then we can start having that conversation. But until that happens, we're fucked.
I think, I mean, to be fair, and I'm not trying to both sides it, but I think there's a lot of liberals out there that don't give a fuck about anybody.
You can try and both sides it, but Biden, did he just make the statement, or was this, what did Biden say before? You can't love your country only when you win the election. Show me a single conservative saying that when Trump lost in 2020. It's not the same.
Didn't Pence say some shit like that?
Pence might have, but that guy, why isn't he didn't run with Trump again, did he? He got eliminated from the Republican Party.
He never would have been allowed to run with Trump.
Yeah, because Trump tried to have him and his family killed on January 6th.
I understand.
Sure.
I saw the
but
gallows.
I'm just saying that like there aren't like if you bring an example up, it's somebody who's now been eliminated from the conservosphere because they don't want him anymore, right? So you'll never find.
Yeah. That makes sense. I understand what you're saying. It's bigger than just yeah. So the one guy that I could think of that might have said some shit like that is now like basically persona non grata on the right because he stepped out of line.
Yeah.
And the left doesn't have any mechanism that swings back that other way.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no decorum or respect for humans or Americans on the conservative side of politics right now. It's 100% a team sports game, so it doesn't matter. If a new Russian program were released that like flew around to houses and like decapitated or disemboweled like liberals, like conservatives would say, "What do you want me to do? It's Russiagate." They wouldn't care.
Yeah. So what? Oh man. Anyway, I know a lot of these questions are pretty rudimentary, like from your perspective. You said you covered it a lot, but I appreciate you, like, again, taking the time to go through it with me and, like, give me, answer me in good faith, because I really am coming to you in good faith with the questions. I'm not, So, yeah, I appreciate that. I know you said you had limited time, so I'll bow out, buddy, but you have a good day, okay?
Yeah, I love you. Be careful, buddy.
All right, bye.
So why are 76 million people voting for that? Because most people, like 90% of people are totally disconnected from like the ordinary political, or not the ordinary, like, fuck, how? Okay. Here is like, let's call this, fuck, hold on. My expert artistry. The fuck? Hold Oh, there it is. Okay. Control. Copy. Paste. Hello. Okay. If we were to talk about the stuff that's like really important, that like everybody should know, like things like the Constitution or rule of law or like boring government shit, we might say that, well, that should comprise like a third of what you care about, right? And then let's say that there are things like legislation, or just like big bills, or like just like broad policies, like what does this guy want to do at the border? Not like the minutiae of things, right? And then let's say that this up here is like memes and shit, okay? So here is like every American should know these like foundational constitutional principles, and it's like, okay, well, let's see, we don't know. We should at least know like legislation and stuff, okay? So like like the CHIPS Act, just like a big bill passed. You don't even know what's in it, just like the infrastructure bill, we should know that, right? And then these are like the memes and stuff over here, okay? I think that if you're a little bit more politically wise, I think that in your mind, you think that, okay, well, obviously Americans don't know like the minutiae of things. So like that knowledge is a lot lower. Okay. And then they know like kind of like the bills and stuff a little, like they've heard of like infrastructure and stuff. Wait, you got like 1 minute. What do you want?
I heard your son is taller than you.
At this point, probably. Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
What do you want me to do? Kill him?
Dealing with, like, how are you dealing with that?
Well, I'm 5'8", so considering I'm below average height, I would hope that he's taller than me.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, how do you deal with that personally? Like, isn't that the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
If you'd asked me that yesterday, maybe, but okay, I love you, be careful. Okay. Okay, so, like, the slightly more politically in tune people, all right, will have like this perspective, right? Well, they'll say like, okay, well, Americans know like they've heard of like the CHIPS Act, maybe they know like the 3 branches of government, but like most of it is memes, okay? Okay, but I think that like the real political black pill is that the average American, like you're at 95% of voters, okay, are probably like this. This is probably the world that you're actually dealing with, okay? Most Americans won't be able to tell you fuck all about the government. Most won't know. Most Americans, like I'm pretty sure, is it 50% of Americans don't know the 3 branches of government, I think? Hold on, let me check. Hold on. This is a recent one that got released. Okay, 65% of Americans can name the 3 branches of government. So we've already lost a third of Americans here, okay? Then this isn't even like, what do the branches do, all right? We've already lost a third of the population in terms of what asked what specific rights are guaranteed by the First Amendment, nearly 3/4 of respondents named freedom of speech. The other 4 rights are recalled by far fewer people. The second most often cited, freedom of religion, is named by just 39%. So this is the second most often cited. So only 39% of Americans can give you rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. Like, I think once you have like this understanding, like people will look at, like how could Americans vote for Trump when he did, X, Y, Z? And it's like, bro, they don't know that he did X, Y, and Z. They don't even know what X, Y, and Z entails. They don't even know what that means. They don't know like what any of the things about, like they have no concept. That's how, which is oftentimes I think why like culture and humor and comedy and all that shit are such an important way of conveying things to people, because these are things that they watch recreationally and then they absorb information through that. But yeah. How do you explain the conservatives that know some minute details, as in key vocab words, but it's because they heard it from content creators, but know nothing about it when they're pushed. I mean, I think it just depends on the thing. Name all the First Amendment rights right now. Honestly, I don't actually think I could, but who the fuck cares? It's not important. First Amendment right, Congress, I should be able to, when we go over the Constitution, we'll try to learn these. Congress can't make any laws abridging, what is it, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, what is it, press, speech, they shall make no law recognizing the establishment of state religion or some bullshit, right? What else would it be? Speech, they said 4 were there. It's speech, religion, freedom of the press. It's not like right to assembly or something, right? No. Or private property? No. The First Amendment. I don't know. So, I don't know. That's fuck it. I'm not sure. Oh, wait. Some people were saying, was assembly the other one? Maybe it was assembly. Freedom of speech or of the press or the right of people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for the redress of grievances. Oh, okay. What does that mean? Petition the government for a redress of grievances. To send an email. The First Amendment means Trump's not allowed to block me on Twitter, I think. Petitions were a big deal back in the day. If you got a lot of signatures, your shit would be talked about in Parliament or Congress. Oh, based. Did AOC block you on Blue Sky? No, I don't think so. So she must not be on one of those lists or whatever. Do you think people treat memes like political comics? And do you think they're just not understanding the difference between the two? I think that they see a funny meme and think it's correct. Probably. I mean, people treat humor like things. This is another thing that just feels so cringe to even say because it should be so obvious. Like jokes aren't just jokes because they're random, unless you're literally looking at anti-humor. But even definitionally, anti-humor is not random. It's the establishment, or it's the it's against whatever is the like humorous convention. But the yeah, I mean, a joke is usually making some kind of truthful statement, right? There's usually there's some element of truth beneath it, otherwise it wouldn't be funny, right? Does your thing with Adam come out next week? I have no idea. I don't. However long it takes them to edit it up, they edit it pretty heavily, right? Like I think we shot for 2 hours, and it's probably gets edited down to like an hour or something. So. I think the biggest blow to post-neoliberal econ is that when presented a choice between a high inflation, low unemployment economy and a low inflation, high unemployment economy, voters seem to prefer the latter, which sucks. Oh, I don't know where you got that from, or I talked about that a couple weeks ago, that I feel like it's probably, there might be other macroeconomic choices that are worse for the economy but are better politically that might be worth considering, which would be really, it's kind of weird to think about, but how is the chemistry between all of you? Was it better than the call? I thought it went really well. I enjoyed it. I thought Adam was funny. It was awkward when I first showed up because I really had no idea if I was getting Sam Hyded or not. But no, I thought it was great. And that Nick Mullen guy seems like pretty friendly and funny, even though I know we would disagree a ton on things. But he seemed like a funny dude. Jokes can be red flags for bigotry. How do you think that is best delineated from genuine, lighthearted, edgy jokes? Is it just who makes them? Humor, I mean, it's kind of, it's like sex and relationships and like how employees discipline like workers and how like you tell if somebody's like racist or not, or like all of these things. I think we try to boil or simplify them down to like very, 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 very simple. Like, are there like binary statements that we can use to see if somebody is a particular thing or not? Like, is this person, do they rape this person, or is this person a racist or whatever? But I think the reality is there's a whole bunch of, I don't want to use the word intuition because it's kind of a cheat, but there's like a vibe intuition that there are a lot of things that factor into it that you kind of use to figure out if you think somebody is bigoted or not. But I don't know if there's like a simple binary thing. I feel like there are like, you could probably think of tests though to figure it out, I guess. Well, I mean, like one really obvious or easy thing would be like, do you know their actual positions, right? So if somebody says to you like, oh, Hispanics are cool, I just wish that they had, you know, like better genes for, you know, more gray matter in their brain, like they'll always be 25 IQ or something. It's like, okay, well, okay, gotcha. Or if somebody's literally like, I don't want my white daughter to marry, you know, a colored person. It's like, okay, well, this person is probably not the kind of person you want to hear making edgy jokes. But I think there could be more subtle things as well. Like this is something I've talked about. Like I'm a really aggressive person when it comes to humor and jokes. But if somebody around me is, if somebody around me says something like, hey, like these kinds of jokes are like, they make me uncomfortable, right? Well, then, you know, there's like two ways that I can approach that. I can either say like, okay, I understand that. I won't make these jokes around you because I, you know, respect you. Or like, okay, well, this is like a big ideological disagreement with me. So for whatever reason, I guess we go our separate ways, or you're not around me when I say these things, you know, whatever. But if somebody like hand waves that and they're like, oh, well, why does this bother you? Like, don't be so fucking lame, dude. It shouldn't matter, right? When you hear people say things like that, I think those should be like key-ins to, okay, well, maybe this person isn't necessarily racist, but they don't care. There's also like different levels to, would I say levels to bigotry? There's like levels to racism or sexism or stuff like that as well, where people don't realize, and they're not even doing it necessarily maliciously. Like you can have a person who's like totally like can see the matrix and is never racist or sexist ever. Then you can have a person who makes like positive sexist or racist comments and they don't think it's a big deal. Like, oh shit, like you're black, you must have a huge cock. Or, oh dude, you're Asian. Like, can you do all my math homework, LOL? Like, and then you're like, hey, that's kind of weird. And they're like, bro, it's just, but these are positive things. Like, how could this ever be bad? Like, it's cool. Then you've got people who are like racist, sexist in kind of a negative way, but they're joking. They don't think it should be a big deal. Like, who cares if you're black and I think you're fatherless, or who cares if you're Hispanic and I ask you if your family can come build my roof? Like, who cares, bro? It's just a joke, right? And then you have people who are like genuinely racist, who just like don't like people of other colors. And then you have people who are like hatefully like, I'm gonna go lynch people, right? People probably exist at like every rung, and there's different ways that you tease all these out. And people might be at like different levels based on the thing. Like you might have a person who's like not racist in any way, size, shape, or form, but is genuinely like really sexist. Or you might have somebody who's not sexist or not racist, but they really don't like trans people or something, right? So I don't know. It's a lot of it is just, there's a lot. It's a lot of sussing stuff out. Hold on, let me grab a Red Bull. Can you give an example of level 1 bigotry? Which one was that? You should read a bit about language games as proposed by Wittgenstein. It's similar to what you're talking about in terms of intuition, except in a very specific language. I feel like I've intuited all of Wittgenstein from the emails I've gotten, so I don't need to read them now.